the pattern and the fall of Rome. You ever notice how there's this pattern that's taken down every single major empire in history? And no, I'm not talking about invasions or revolutions or some huge war that wipes them out. It's always the same damn thing. The money, the currency, every time. Rome, Spain, Britain, the biggest, baddest empires the world's ever seen, all went down the same way. Not overnight, not in a single battle. They slowly rotted from the inside out because their money stopped meaning anything. Currency collapse. And here's the wild part. It happens exactly the same way, step by step, every single time. Rome, the empire that ruled the known world for 5 centuries, ended up falling apart when its currency turned into play money. Spain, sitting on more gold and silver than anyone in human history, went broke again and again until their empire just dissolved. Britain dominated global trade for 200 freaking years and still lost it all within a decade once their money crashed. 4 times in recorded history, the same chain of events. Military overreach, way too much spending, money printing or currency debasement, inflation, loss of confidence, collapse. And here's the crazy part. Every single empire thought they were different. Oh, we're special. The old rules don't apply to us. Yeah, they said that too. And every single one of them was dead wrong. And right now, in 2025, the United States, the supposed exception to every rule, is walking that exact same path, step by step, warning sign after warning sign. The only question left? Are we at the beginning, the middle, or the end of the story? This is the story of how empires destroy themselves from the inside, not by enemies, not by coups, but through their own damn money. How it happened to Rome, Spain, and Britain, and why every flashing red light says, it's happening again. So let's rewind back to where this pattern first showed its face. Rome. The superpower that dominated Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East for over 500 years. At its height, Rome ruled over 60 million people across 3 continents. Their military, untouchable. Their infrastructure, decades ahead of its time. And their currency, the denarius, was the gold standard, well, silver standard technically. Everybody trusted it. From Britain to Egypt, it was as good as cash gets. The denarius was a silver coin first introduced in 211 BC. About 4.5 grams of pure silver. For centuries, it held its value because Rome did something nobody else did. They kept it honest. When you got a denarius, you knew it was real silver, real value, no tricks. That built trust. And that trust fueled Rome's entire machine, paying soldiers, building roads, expanding borders. But here's the problem. Empires are expensive as hell. Every generation, Rome's borders grew bigger, and every expansion meant more troops, more forts, more roads, more bureaucracy. And at some point, more money than they actually had. So what'd they do? The same thing every empire does when they run out of cash. They start cheating. They debase the currency. Emperor Nero, yeah, the guy who supposedly fiddled while Rome burned, ruled from 54 to 68 AD. He was the first one to pull the trigger. Dude needed to fund his lavish lifestyle and all those military campaigns, so he ordered the mints to cut the silver content from 100% down to 90%. That 10% difference, pure profit for him. Now he could mint 11 coins out of the silver that used to make 10. Same amount of silver, more coins. That's inflation, baby. But honestly, 90% silver wasn't the end of the world. The real damage came later. By the time Emperor Caracalla rolled around in 211 AD, the denarius was down to 50% silver, half real value, half junk metal. And by 265 AD, under Emperor Gallienus, we're talking just 5% silver. A coin that used to be solid silver was now 95% worthless with just a thin silver coating to fool the eye. Think about that. If you were a Roman soldier in 265 AD, getting paid in denarii, your paycheck was worth 1/12 of what your ancestors got 200 years before. The government swore nothing had changed. Same coin, same emperor's face stamped on it, but in reality, it was monopoly money. And when people finally caught on, boom! Prices exploded. Something that cost 1 denarius in 200 AD cost 50 by 300 AD. Farmers refused to sell food for coins. They wanted barter, wheat for tools, meat for goods. Soldiers wouldn't fight unless you paid them in gold or something real. Tax collectors couldn't collect taxes because the money was garbage. The whole economy seized up. And here's the brutal truth. This wasn't caused by invaders or pandemics or some natural disaster. Rome's borders were still defended. This collapse was self-inflicted. The Roman government literally destroyed its own currency trying to fund a lifestyle it couldn't afford. And when the money died, the empire followed. By 476 AD, the Western Roman Empire officially collapsed, not because the Germanic tribes were suddenly stronger, but because Rome couldn't pay its armies anymore, couldn't maintain the roads, couldn't fund the government. The denarius, once the symbol of Rome's strength, had been turned into trash, and everything built on that fake value came crashing down with it. So the pattern starts here. Military expansion, unsustainable spending, currency debasement, inflation, loss of trust, collapse. And Rome proved it, and every empire since has run the same damn playbook. Next up, Spain, the richest empire in history that literally drowned itself in silver. Spain, the empire that drowned in silver. All right, so after Rome burned itself out, history took a breather for a bit. And then along comes Spain, the next big dog on the block. It's the 1500s. The Spanish Empire's just hitting its golden age. Columbus has stumbled across the New World. Hernán Cortés just wrecked the Aztecs. Francisco Pizarro, he crushed the Incas. Spain's out here collecting land, gold, and glory like they're achievements in a video game. And then, in 1545, they hit the jackpot. Spanish explorers find this mountain in what's now Bolivia, Cerro Rico, or Rich Mountain. And man, this thing wasn't just a silver mine, it was the silver mine, the biggest the world had ever seen. For the next century, that one mountain pumped out nearly half the world's silver, millions of pounds of it, ship after ship loaded with silver bars crossing the Atlantic, stacking Spain's vaults with more money than anyone could even count. They mint all that silver into coins and boom, the Spanish dollar becomes the first global currency. Everybody used it. Europe, Asia, the Americas. It was trusted, it was pure, and it seemed endless. Spain was on top of the world. Their empire stretched across every inhabited continent. Literally, the sun never set on Spanish territory. They were the richest, most powerful empire on Earth. But here's the catch, and it's a big one. More money doesn't always make you richer. If everyone suddenly has a ton of money, what happens? Prices go up. That's inflation. So Spain starts flooding Europe with silver. And guess what? Everything gets more expensive. What cost one coin in 1500 now costs 10 by 1600. The silver itself didn't get worse. There was just way more of it. And when you've got too much of anything, it loses value. But that wasn't the only problem. Spain wasn't actually producing anything. They weren't building factories or innovating or creating new industries. They were just extracting wealth from their colonies and blowing it on wars, palaces, and luxury goods from other countries. So the silver comes in from the Americas and goes right back out to France, England, and the Netherlands. Why? Because Spain's importing everything they need. Clothes, ships, tools, even food sometimes. They're rich on paper, but broke in reality. By the late 1500s, the Spanish kings are drowning in debt. King Philip II, who ruled from 1556 to 1598, inherits 36 million ducats of debt from his dad, Charles V. And instead of tightening the belt, nah, Philip doubles down. He borrows more. He fights everybody. Wars against the Ottoman Empire, Protestant rebels in the Netherlands, even England. And eventually, that house of cards comes crashing down. In 1557, Philip II straight up declares bankruptcy. He suspends all debt payments. Boom! That's the first sovereign default in modern history. But it's far from the last. Spain defaults again in 1560, again in 1575, and again in 1596, 4 times in 40 years. Think about that. This was the richest country on the planet, controlling half the world's silver supply, and they couldn't pay their bills? Each default destroyed trust. Lenders stopped lending. Interest rates on Spanish debt went through the roof. And how does the government respond? Same old trick. They start debasing the currency. They mint coins with less silver. They mix in cheaper metals. Then they start printing copper coins and claiming they're as much as silver ones. And guess what? Nobody buys it. People stop believing in the money. The currency loses credibility. By the 1600s, Spain is in terminal decline. They can't fund their military. They can't pay their soldiers. Their colonies start rebelling. And when the 30 Years' War finally ends in 1648 with the Peace of Westphalia, that's basically the curtain call for the Spanish Empire. By 1700, it's over. Done. The country that once owned the world's wealth had literally spent and borrowed itself into irrelevance. And again, the pattern's right there, clear as day. Massive influx, government overspending, excessive borrowing, currency inflation, repeated defaults, loss of confidence, collapse. Spain proved that even unlimited resources can't save you from bad money management. You can be sitting on mountains of gold and silver. Hell, you can own half the planet. But if you spend more than you earn and start playing games with your currency, you're toast. So Rome fell because their coins turned to trash. Spain fell because they drowned in their own silver. Next up, Britain, the empire that ran the world for 2 centuries and lost it all in 1 generation once their currency cracked.
Britain, the empire that borrowed itself to death. All right, so after Spain crashed and burned, the torch passes again. And this time, it lands in the hands of Britain, the empire that honestly took things to a whole new level. At its peak, in 1922, the British Empire ruled about 458 million people. That's like a quarter of the planet's population, and about a quarter of the world's land. From Canada to India, from Africa to Australia, you name it, they had it. And people used to say, the sun never sets on the British Empire. Not just poetic, literally true. Somewhere on Earth, it was always daylight on British soil. And the heart of that empire? The British pound. The pound sterling was the foundation, the world's gold standard. For over 2 centuries, it was the global reserve currency. Over 60% of all global trade was done in pounds. Everything revolved around it. See, the pound wasn't just a piece of paper, it was a promise, a guarantee you could exchange it for a fixed amount of gold. That trust gave Britain massive power. Stability, confidence, credibility, all built on that gold peg. But here's the catch again. Empires are built on credit, and credit's just debt with a fancy name. And at some point, that bill comes due. Britain financed its global empire by borrowing like crazy, selling bonds, taking loans, funding wars, colonies, trade, infrastructure, everything. As long as the pound stayed strong, they could keep the machine running. Then came World War I, and that changed everything. In 1914, the British national debt was around $650 million. By 1919, just 5 years later, it had exploded to over $7 billion. That's more than a 10-fold jump. Why? Because total war costs total money. To pay for it, Britain borrowed from everyone, its own people, other countries, even the US. They also suspended the gold standard. See, in 1914, when war broke out, the British government had to make a call. Either keep the pound backed by gold or print the cash needed to fight Germany. Guess which one they picked? They printed. The pound became fiat, backed by nothing but the government's promise. Sound familiar? Now, after the war, they tried to go back to gold. In 1925, Winston Churchill, yeah, that Churchill, was the Chancellor of the Exchequer, and he decided Britain was going to restore the gold standard at the pre-war exchange rate, basically pretending the pound hadn't lost any value. Huge mistake. The currency was massively overvalued. British goods became stupid expensive overseas, exports tanked, and unemployment went through the roof. To defend that fake value, the government had to crank up interest rates, which just crushed the economy even more. By 1931, it was game over. Britain ditched gold again, this time for good. The pound was devalued, trust started to crumble, and that invincible empire image began to fade fast. But the real hit came after World War II. See, Britain entered that war already drowning in debt, and by the time it was over, they were buried. The war cost everything. Cities were bombed to rubble, the economy was wrecked, and national debt had ballooned to 270% of GDP. That means they owed almost 3 times what their entire economy was worth. And now, to make things worse, they owed a ton of that money to the United States. In 1944, while World War II was still raging, global leaders met at the Bretton Woods conference to set up a new financial system for the post-war world. And right there, the British pound got dethroned. The US dollar became the new global reserve currency. The pound's 200-year reign was over. Britain tried to hang on, to pretend like nothing had changed, but the math didn't lie. They had no gold left, no booming economy, and way too much debt. After the war, they tried reopening the pound to foreign exchange, making it convertible again. That lasted about 6 weeks. People instantly dumping pounds for dollars, and Britain had to slam the door shut again. Then came the devaluations. In 1949, the pound lost 30% of its value overnight. In 1967, it got chopped again. Each time, it wiped out savings, crushed confidence, and sent one clear message to the world: Britain is not what it used to be. Meanwhile, the empire itself started falling apart. India declared independence in 1947. Egypt took over the Suez Canal in 1956, and when Britain tried to take it back, it was a total embarrassment. After that, colony after colony broke away. Not because they were conquered by someone else, but because Britain literally couldn't afford to hold them anymore. By the 1970s, Britain was basically limping. Inflation hit 25%. The economy was on life support. They even had to go begging to the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, for a bailout. Think about that. The same country that once ruled a quarter of the world now had to ask for help to pay its bills. The pound, once the world's strongest currency, had become a symbol of decline. And the empire that controlled the globe? Gone. In just a few decades. Not because of some foreign army, not because of a massive invasion, but because their currency, the foundation of their entire system, collapsed under the weight of debt and inflation. So there it is again. The pattern, plain as day: war debt, currency debasement, loss of reserve status, devaluation, inflation, collapse. Britain proved that even the biggest, smartest, most powerful empire can go broke in a single generation when the money goes bad. And that brings us to now, the fourth act in this repeating tragedy: the United States, the modern empire, and the one walking down the same exact path, step by step. The United States, the empire in real time. So now we've made it to today. Rome's gone, Spain's gone, Britain's a shadow of what it used to be. And now it's us, the United States, the current empire, the current reserve currency. And if you've been paying attention, you already know where this is going. Because every single warning sign that destroyed Rome, Spain, and Britain, yeah, they're all flashing red right now. Let's start with the money, the US dollar. It's been the world's reserve currency since 1944, right after World War II. That's when the Bretton Woods system came together and basically made the dollar the global standard. Back then, $1 was backed by gold, $35 an ounce. Other countries pegged their currencies to the dollar, and the dollar was as good as gold, literally. But, like every empire before it, America started spending more than it earned. The Vietnam War, the Great Society programs, hundreds of military bases around the world. And by the 1960s, other countries started to notice that we were printing more dollars than we had gold to back them up. France's president, Charles de Gaulle, called us out. He literally started trading US dollars for physical gold. Other nations followed his lead. Gold was flying out of Fort Knox. The bluff was getting called. So in 1971, Nixon made the move. He shut the gold window. No more converting dollars into gold. And just like that, the dollar became pure fiat, backed by nothing but trust, the government's promise. Sound familiar? Rome did it, Britain did it, and now America did too. At first, it looked fine. The petrodollar deal of the 1970s made sure all global oil sales were priced in dollars, which kept demand sky high. So the system held for a while, but the spending never stopped. The debt just kept snowballing. In 1980, U.S. national debt was around $900 billion. By 2000, it was $5.6 trillion. By 2020, it was $27 trillion. And today, in 2025, it's over $36 trillion. That's a 40x increase in 45 years, and it's still accelerating. But the debt is only half the story. Like Rome debasing its silver coins, or Spain flooding the world with silver, America's been printing money out of thin air. Since the 2008 financial crisis, the Federal Reserve has created trillions of dollars that never existed before. They call it quantitative easing. Sounds fancy, but really it's just a polite way of saying, money printer go brr. During COVID, they went full throttle. Over $4 trillion printed in just 2 years. That's more new money than the U.S. had printed in the entire previous century combined. And of course, they told us it wouldn't cause inflation. They said modern economics had it figured out. We're different. We're special. The old rules don't apply. Yeah, that's exactly what Rome said, and Spain, and Britain. And what happened? Inflation spiked to 9% in 2022. Real inflation, like what you actually feel buying groceries, gas, or paying rent, way higher. The dollar is slowly losing its value, one paycheck at a time. And it's not just domestic. Just like the pound before it, the dollar's global dominance is slipping. In 2000, over 70% of the world's foreign reserves were held in dollars. Today, it's around 58% and dropping. The BRICS nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, and now a bunch of new members, are openly building alternatives. They're trading in their own currencies. They're building new payment systems. They're buying gold, cutting down their dollar use. They're preparing for the day the dollar loses its crown. Sound familiar? It's the exact same play the world ran when the British pound started to crumble after World War II. And then there's the military problem, the exact same one Rome had: overextension. The U.S. maintains nearly 800 military bases in over 70 countries. That's insane. The defense budget alone is around $800 billion a year. The wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, they cost over $8 trillion. And all of it is being paid for with, you guessed it, debt and printed money. Rome couldn't pay its legions when its coins lost value. Spain couldn't fund its endless wars after it went bankrupt. Britain couldn't maintain its colonies after its currency collapsed. And now the U.S. is stuck in the same loop, running out of time, running out of trust, and running out of options. So let's break this pattern down one last time, because once you see it, you can't unsee it. Stage 1. Dominance. Every empire starts at the top. Strong military, booming economy, global trust in its currency. Rome had the denarius. Spain had silver. Britain had the pound. America's got the dollar. At this point, the currency is backed by something real: gold, silver, or long-term credibility. Stage 2. Overextension. The empire grows too big. Too many wars, too many colonies, too many promises. Rome stretches across 3 continents. Spain tries to rule every ocean. Britain colonizes a quarter of the planet. America's got bases everywhere and obligations to everyone. The costs become unsustainable. Stage 3. Deficit spending. The empire starts spending more than it earns. At first, it's manageable. They borrow, they issue bonds. But eventually, the deficits become permanent. Rome needed to pay its legions. Spain needed to fund its wars. Britain had to finance 2 world wars. And America is running trillion-dollar deficits every single year, even during peacetime. Stage 4. Currency debasement. They can't tax enough. They can't borrow enough, so they start printing. Rome watered down its silver. Spain flooded Europe with silver. Britain abandoned gold. America ditched gold in 71 and has been printing ever since. Stage 5. Inflation. When there's more money chasing the same amount of goods, prices rise. Rome saw prices jump 50-fold. Spain's entire economy inflated. Britain hit 25% inflation in the 1970s. And America, we're right in the middle of that stage now. Stage 6. Loss of confidence. People stop believing the currency has real value. Roman soldiers demanded gold, not denarii. Spanish lenders stopped lending after repeated defaults. The world ditched the pound for the dollar after Bretton Woods. Now, countries are slowly ditching the dollar. Stage 7. Collapse. The economy implodes. The currency loses its dominance. The empire can't fund its military or maintain control. Rome fell. Spain faded into irrelevance. Britain lost everything within a generation. And the US? That's the part we're living through right now. That's the pattern. 7 stages repeated over 2,000 years. Different empires, different continents, same sequence. Because the math never changes. You can't spend more than you earn forever. You can't print prosperity. And you can't debase your currency without paying the price. Right now, the US is somewhere between stage 5 and stage 6, deep into inflation, sliding toward that loss of confidence. So what happens next? History gives us 3 possible endings. Option 1, controlled decline, like Britain after 1945. They lost their empire, lost the reserve currency, suffered devaluations and inflation, but they didn't vanish. They adjusted. A slow, humiliating fade into second-tier status, but the country survived. Option 2, chaotic collapse, like Rome in the 5th century. The money becomes worthless. The government loses control. Everything fragments. Total breakdown, economic, social, political. Basically, the Dark Ages. Option 3, reset and restructure. A new currency system emerges. Maybe it's gold-backed again. Maybe it's a digital currency or a basket of multiple ones. Maybe China's yuan takes over. The old system dies, but something new replaces it quickly enough to avoid total chaos. The United States is standing right at that crossroads. The debt's too big to pay back. The spending's out of control. So what are the options? Default, which would instantly destroy the dollar's global status. Inflation, which is already happening and likely to get worse. Or a massive restructuring, which would take political will that, honestly, we just don't have right now. And here's what makes this even scarier. Rome, Spain, and Britain were all regional empires. Their collapses mostly hurt themselves. But the US? The dollar is global. If it falls, it takes everything with it. Every central bank, every trade deal, every stock market. The entire world's financial system is tied to it. So when this pattern hits the final stage, it's not just America that goes down. It's the global economy that gets shaken to its core. And that's not a prediction, that's precedent. 4 empires, 4 currency collapses, 4 identical patterns. The math of empire doesn't care about politics. It doesn't care about military power or technology. It's simple economics, and economic laws are just as brutal and unbreakable as physics. You can delay it, you can deny it, but you can't cheat it forever. Rome debased its coins to pay its armies. The denarius died, the empire fell. Spain drowned in silver and inflated itself to death. Britain borrowed to fight 2 world wars and lost the pound's crown. And now America's printing trillions, running record deficits, and convincing itself it's different. But it's not. No empire ever is. The pattern doesn't care about American exceptionalism. It doesn't care how powerful you think you are. The math always wins. 4 empires, 4 collapses, 4 identical stories. The only question left is when? How long until the world loses confidence in the dollar? How long until the American empire joins the others in the history books? Because if history's any guide, we're closer than anyone wants to admit. If this gave you a new perspective, hit that subscribe button. Because when this pattern finishes playing out, you're going to want to understand how and why it happened. History's already written the ending. And the pattern? Yeah, the pattern never lies.